back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Becoming Abraham. I'm Amadi J. Thank you again for joining. As always, you can catch all of our episodes on divemedia.co. That's divemedia.co. As well as checking us out on YouTube. You can, and if you want to do the audio only version, we're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, Spotify, all the places. Please check us out. If you're on the audio versions, please give us 5-star review. Follow. If you're on YouTube, just click the link below. Like and subscribe to get us every time we upload a new episode. So, hey, listen, thank you for joining us again. We're going to continue this conversation about Abram being the first, doing what you got to do to progress, right? I actually want to continue. This is a continuation, right? So this might be a short one tonight, but this is a continuation from the last episode. If you recall, and if you haven't, please go back and listen to the previous episode. My wife and I, we did a deep dive into a particular episode in the life of Abram and his wife Sarai, where they had a particular encounter in the land of ancient Kemet, aka Egypt. And I want to continue that, right? There's a little nugget in there that I want to pull out that I thought we should zoom in on. And it goes back to the idea that Abram was willing to sacrifice his wife due to his fear, right? And we went deep into fears previously, but I'm not here to talk about the fear component. What I am here to talk about is making sure that you can't be bought, right? It's important that you can't be bought. Now, for whatever reason, whether it's fear, greed, your lust or thirst for power or whatever, you got to make sure you can't be bought, right? There's a very specific portion of that chapter. So again, as I always, like to preface these stories, I choose to follow the God of the Bible. And so some of these things that we're going to talk about tonight come directly from the Bible. So this is Genesis chapter 12. And this is going back to that same story, but there's one little piece in it that I want to highlight, that I want to talk about really quickly. And what it is Abram, when they get to Egypt, and then he and his wife Sarai begin to get complimented on her beauty. The Pharaoh and all of his minions or whomever, they compliment, in verses 15 and 16, well, leading up to 15 and 16, but they begin to get compliments on her beauty, right? So in verse 14, it says that when they arrive in Egypt, the Egyptians saw that his wife was very beautiful. And Pharaoh's officials also compliment her beauty. And then, Abram says, hey, no, this is my sister. And then Pharaoh says, oh, well, if this is your sister, I'm going to take her as a wife. Okay? Now, I want to show you this and why this is important. Verses 15 and 16, you see there's something very interesting. You see that she was taken into the household of Pharaoh. And then it says, he didn't just take Sarah into his household, the Pharaoh. It says he treated Abraham very well because of her. Abram received sheep and cattle and donkeys and even male and female servants, camels, etc. He got a lot of stuff. He bought Abram off. And you know what you don't see? As the gifts are being given to Abram, what you don't see in that particular passage is Abram say, hey, wait a minute. This woman is my bride. This woman is my wife. This is my wife. All right. I was a little scared at first, but you're not going to pay me off for my wife. All right. It's like an old movie. I forget the name of the movie. But the guy had offered, this rich guy had offered this middle class family $1 million. He offered the husband like $1 million for one night with his wife. It's called Indecent Proposal. It was called Indecent Proposal, and this wealthy man had offered this working class guy $1 million to, spend one night with his wife, obviously in an intimate way. All right. Abram essentially took an indecent proposal here. He allowed himself to be bought, because it wasn't just the fear and tell him that you're my sister, but when he began to see things going a little too far, right? Pharaoh takes Sarai into his household. All right, she's gonna be one of my women. She's coming to live with Pharaoh. Coming to live in a big house, right? And he tell Abram, hey, I appreciate you, so you know what? We're gonna make sure that you are well taken care of. And obviously, in antiquity, no one's walking around with cash or doing no direct deposit, so he's paid off essentially in livestock and cattle and servants and stuff like that. And Abram takes those gifts. Abram allows himself to be bought. Now, I want to really encourage you all, because some of you, your gifts and your talents, and particularly your purpose, there are going to be many who will see your purpose and realize how valuable your purpose is. And again, because we are the first, we're having to do things the first. You may have never seen someone fully walk out their purpose. Just see it from beginning to end and watch it come to fruition and boom, and explode, just all the things explode. Like, you may have never seen that. And so along the way, someone else, particularly those who may be wealthy and powerful but have devious motives, may see your purpose and realize its value, and they may try to buy you. You can sell a business, you can sell a house, you can sell some of your belongings. You cannot sell your purpose. Okay? Your purpose is not for sale. Your purpose is yours. Now, what you can do is take your purpose to the grave and it go unfulfilled. All right? But you will take your purpose with you to the grave. The graveyard is filled with people who never fulfilled their purpose. My former father in the Lord, who passed on, he told me once, the graveyard is like a treasure. He's like, one of the greatest treasures on earth is the graveyard, because so many people go to the grave with their purpose. So there's value in your purpose. Your purpose is not for sale. Your purpose cannot be bought. Your purpose is yours. Sarai at this point, his wife, is tied to his purpose. And as we go later on in episodes and as we go later on in some of these chapters, you're going to see why she is so important to his purpose. But she's tied to his purpose. She's a part of what God was going to do through the life of Abram. And so because of that, that thing is not for sale. I wanted to hone in on this part of selling your purpose. Your purpose is not for sale. It takes me back to a conversation I had with a really good brother. I may talk about this later on in this, in this podcast. I used to do music in a previous, and who knows, I may do some more. My assistant producer here, he's got the itch, and so I told him we might work on some stuff, but that's for a later discussion. But I used to talk with the brother. He produced a lot of my music previously, produced a bunch of my albums. And we were talking about business. Now, at the time, the conversation was business versus ministry, but I don't like to per se call it ministry. I like to call it kingdom service, right? Service to the kingdom of God. But, he would say, like, man, why do you do this? And why do you do it like that? Why don't you, do it like this? And I tell him, I say, hey, listen, I said, I hear what you're saying professionally. I do. Professionally, that makes all the sense, because he was professionally, that's his profession. He makes movies, music, all those things. Professionally, that's what he does. And I said, but I don't need this to put food on my table. As I've mentioned in a previous episode, I work in the project management industry. And so I was able to be free to offer my service to the kingdom. Now, whether it makes money or whether it doesn't make money, I didn't have to put that pressure on myself or others because I felt like this was my purpose, to build people as a builder, right? And that can't be bought. It's not for sale, right? My professional talents and abilities are for sale. I've gone to different companies. I've left jobs. I've done my own independent things. I've done a lot of different things, right? That's business. You do business to make money, to put food on the table and provide for yourself and your families. But your kingdom purpose, the purpose that was inscribed upon you, right, before you were even born, that's something that's not for sale. And that's something that Abram didn't realize. And for many of us who have never seen people take their purpose from seed form all the way to fruition, sometimes we can get those two jumbled up. And so because of that, we try to put our purpose up for sale. We try to put our purpose up for sale, and it's not for sale. And that's what Abram was doing here. He was putting a component of his purpose up for sale. He takes those gifts from the Pharaoh without any fight or argument, allows the Pharaoh to take his wife into his household, and save for God rescuing them out of that scenario, Abram would have jeopardized his purpose. He would have jeopardized his purpose. Okay? And the last piece here I want to show you, which is powerful, it's at the end of this chapter, right? So after, and he realizes the error of his ways, it says in verse 20. In verse 20 of that chapter 12, the scripture says that Pharaoh gave his officials the order to expel Abram from their kingdom and all his possessions. I think that was purposely put there to show the gifts meant nothing to Pharaoh. The gifts that he was giving Moses meant nothing to Pharaoh because he's super wealthy. You know, if one of these billionaires who exist in our time were to give somebody $1 million, that would be nothing to them, right? It would be as if you and I lose $1, right? And I'm not trying to minimize anything. Some of you may need the dollars, but relatively speaking, that's just the ratio that I'm trying to articulate. You know, if one of us were to lose $1 or lose a quarter or something, or lose $10, whatever, I don't know your economic, situation, but, if you were to drop $1, you might be like, dang, I think I dropped some money on the floor, but your life wouldn't be over because you dropped $1, right? Well, to some of these, to the uber wealthy, $100,000, $500,000, $1 million is not much to them. So the possessions, right? Abram's eyes probably lit up like Christmas. Oh, the Pharaoh's going to give me cattle and sheep and camels and servants. Oh man, right? And I'm willing to, sell a component of my purpose. And in the end, the Pharaoh says, look, just take all that crap and get out of here. So it says that Abram and Sarai were expelled, thrown out. I remember the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the old television show, when Uncle Phil used to just throw out Jazz, just kind of throw them out the house, right? He throws them out the house. He expels them out of the kingdom and all their possessions, which I just find amazing. Those things meant nothing to Pharaoh, but they meant enough to Abram for him to potentially be willing to sell his purpose. Do not sell your purpose. Your purpose is not for sale. Again, you can sell a house, you can sell possessions, sell a car, you can sell anything. You cannot sell your purpose. Your purpose, your destiny, whatever, it is yours. It was inscribed by the Most High on you, upon you, before you were born. And I know it's difficult because you may have never seen anyone walk in their true purpose. And so you're like, man, listen, but it is worth it. It will be difficult. It's going to be difficult when you don't see a return on your purpose yet. It's going to be difficult when your purpose may not be something that's lucrative. It's going to be difficult when your purpose may potentially cause you some hardship. It may be difficult. How many people had to die and sacrifice themselves for many of us to experience some of these modern amenities that we have nowadays? Many. How many difficult, situations that humans have to go through as we're advancing, as we are, becoming more advanced and, becoming, more technologically advanced and making cities and, becoming more modern. A lot of people had to struggle through a lot of things. Okay. Many of them had purposes. Some of them saw it to fruition. Many of them went to the grave without it being fulfilled. So the question is not why, the question is what. What will you and I do with our purpose? Will we allow it to be bought, or at least attempted to be bought? Or will we continue to walk out our purpose until we see it to fruition through the good components, through the good aspects of it and through the difficult aspects of it? So I encourage you, and remember, you can sell property, possessions, and things, but you cannot sell your purpose. Okay? I know it's hard because you may not have seen anybody walk it out, but do it anyway. Endure. That's why those relationships are important. We talked about this previously. Having those relationships are important. Having the encouragement is important. Okay? Conquering those fears. I'm hoping that these things build upon one another. The earth needs your purpose. There's people that you may not have even met who need your purpose, who need you to walk in your purpose. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Okay. And, no matter what we're talking about here, like I said, if it's destiny, purpose, your mission, okay, even if you've never seen anybody walking it out before, right? And even if you've done business, you've sold property, you've sold cars, you sold possessions, you've done a lot of different things. Remember, you cannot sell your purpose. And just because you haven't seen anyone do it yet, remember, somebody has to be the first. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Again, if you're on the audio, please give us 5 stars and a follow. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe below. Thank you guys for watching Becoming Abraham. I will see you on the next one. Welcome.